What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today we're here with David and Chao. They out of Nairobi, Kenya, and we want to talk to them a little bit about not only mental health and what's going on with that there in Kenya, but we also talk about the radio show that's being hosted. There's a lot of questions we have for them being here in Houston, them being in Nairobi. So thank both of you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
All right, so let's start off with the elephant in the room. I'm always going to do that anytime I do an interview. Chao. Now you heard how she just spoke, and she in Nairobi. Chao, why you speak that way? You don't sound like David.
Why don't I sound like David? Because he's a guy and I'm a girl.
No, ain't what I told you. You sound like you from Houston.
Oh, no, if I was from Houston, I'd have a little bit of a southern drawl. But I went to school in the U.S., I went to school in Europe as well, and I went to American schools in Japan. So kind of had that going on, a bit of an international background.
Okay, so you have the international background. And David, what's your story? So you went to school I heard you the digital guru. That's what I heard.
Yep. Yeah, of course, I went to a normal school, not like Chao. Unlike Chao, sorry. And all my digital knowledge I learned from Google University. You just Google and learn. That's it.
Okay, so you say normal school. What is a normal school, sir?
A normal school is a normal public school in Nairobi. and an extremely normal high school in Nairobi still.
Okay, so you come from the Nairobi School of Thought then?
Yes, exactly.
All right, awesome. That's what I definitely like to hear. So as you can see, guys, I mean they good people. I love to have interviews like this where I can laugh with people because a lot of my interviews I have a very straight face. It's not because but usually I'm listening to them what they're telling me, but they talk like family here. So hey, we're having a great time. So now this something is serious, but let's get into that first. The mental health aspect. Mental health is a major issue, and it's also a crutch for certain people in this country when they shoot up schools and churches, etc. But we know that's not mental health. That is just white supremacy and evil. But for people with real mental health issues, let's talk about that. There's even the black community here in the U.S. We have a lot of mental health issues, but it's so stigmatized here that we just feel that we go see past the pork chop, and now we're not doing that no more. So how is mental health, in Kenya itself? And because I seen a episode one time, I think it was on BBC, where a lot of Kenyan men were dealing with mental health issues, and some of them was trying to commit suicide. A lot of them.
Yeah, I think we could answer this in half and half because we've had this conversation a lot. There's definitely stigma when it comes to mental health issues, and I think that it's with people of color around the world. It's frowned upon. It's covered. In Africa, it's even worse. I know the situation in the U.S. amongst African Americans is bad, but here it's to the point where people are hidden. Sometimes people don't want to talk about it. They feel very stigmatized. They feel scared of speaking about it. They don't want people to look at them differently. Or to treat them differently. And that's evident. It's very evident. And I think even more evident when we started the campaign, we had seen it. There was a reason why we started what we started, but then, we had observed it. And once we started talking about it, we realized that even in our family setups, you have the aunties or the uncles who might have made you laugh, but now when you're older, you could see that there was a problem there, but it was never talked about.
All right, and go ahead, David.
Oh yeah, basically for us here in Africa, we have been raised to be strong men, and we try and behave, and we have been taught by our fathers and our uncles and our grandfathers that men should not cry, men are strong, men should protect the family, men go to the bush to hunt for the women and everyone else. So if you look weak or act weak, then you let your whole family down, and I think that it's a cultural thing that we as Africans are not allowed to show our emotions openly. Like, even if I've never seen my dad cry, he's never seen me cry, and he will never see me cry because it's taboo in so many ways, and I think it starts from there because we feel, and that is why the BBC story highlighted on men mostly, and men committing suicide. And even after that, it will be hidden, and no family will admit and say, you know what, this is what actually happened. They will cover it up with a random disease that came overnight and killed this person. But yeah, it's a stigma thing, and we have been raised and made to believe that we are not supposed to be weak.
Right. Well, like I said, being in the U.S., and I'm talking about the black, African American community. That's what I'm talking about. I was raised more so. What you're describing, David, is more so what we would say is old school. I was raised the same way. Men are supposed to be strong. Men are supposed to provide. Men are supposed to be weak. Everything you're saying, it sounds like my upbringing. But then you have these new men in America now. They all in touch with their feelings, and they'll cry. And like, for me, it's like, I don't like this. Just to me, I don't. Because, if you look into the culture today, not all men are this way, but we just have it's okay for men to share their feelings. And then, we have a big issue with the dads not being in the households. So that also brought in that it's okay to share your feeling type of deal. And so, yeah, I definitely get, exactly where you're coming from with that. And the deal is, men do deal with issues. But I believe that it takes other men to come in at times and just sit down and have this real conversation. Say, look, man, I understand what you're dealing with. Let me holler at you about this a little bit, because especially what you're talking about, they're not going to listen to a woman. I can tell you that right now.
Yes.
Oh, they don't listen, sir. Even here, it's the same thing.
You said, what's going on there, Chao?
I said, yeah, it's the same thing. They hardly listen. You can see that there is a problem, but then it'll take. If I was to say, David, I know that you're going through something, and I could see it, it would take him 10 years before he even admitted that there was ever something that was going on with him at the time, like 10 years later. And I've known him a long time. So it would be like, no, that's I don't remember it that way. So it's the same kind of thing.
Well, I'm going to say this. When it comes to that, I agree with David 100%, but I'm a little bit more so like, if somebody come up to me and say, Phil, look, kind of see you dealing with some stuff situation, and I know they spot on what they're saying, I have a conversation. And sometimes I will say this, as a man, you could talk to women about certain things that you wouldn't feel comfortable talking to a man about. Like, you may be a little bit more emotionally vulnerable with a woman than you would with a man. Like, man, I ain't doing that. But there's some things you don't want to tell a woman about, and you rather tell a man. So, that's just like, I would say, the balance. You gotta have like a balance to everything. You can't just be so you're so in your masculinity that you can't think that you can't even talk, because women are naturally nurturers naturally, so it's kind of easier to talk to them about just a few some things. So like me with my wife, some things I rather talk to her about because it's a little easier to talk to her versus than something I rather talk to another guy about. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta have a healthy balance.
Yes, I do agree with the balance.
He about to use that three-letter word that they all say, but.
Yes, but I feel like men here mostly have a drink, to talk about their issues, not really issues. And, when people are high and, having a lot of fun, then you just slip in your problem there, you just slip it in, and, we laugh about it. The next day we'll just say, it was a good drink. You said some crazy shit, and sorry for cussing. You said some crazy things, and, that's it. But as I've said in church last week, some men, I was having a conversation with some guys from church, and they have a really, really hard time talking about their issues too. They actually envy the guys who drink, because men in church also go through the same issue of not sharing as much as you'd think that they're in a better place, but they hold a lot to themselves because they fear judgment, and this is along with Christianity. So they were telling me they envy other men who just go to the bar, have a drink, and they have an outlet of just releasing whatever that it is that is going on in your heads, or whatever you're going through in your life. But at the end of the day, if you think about it, I know you feel like men being oversensitive is something, oversensitive of course is an issue, but and it affects men with other men. People will judge you, other men will judge you and think, why are you opening your heart that much? You should be a man. It's extra sensitive. But at the end of the day, there's a difference between being sensitive and being open. So I feel like having a few friends that you can open up to when you feel like there's a lot of pressure would be good enough, even for men, whether it's a man or a woman, or both of them at the same time or differently, that you decide to share with your issues, whether on Skype, on WhatsApp, and whatever channel you choose to. I feel like just speaking out at the end of the day is what will matter the most. Sorry, Chao.
Yeah, y'all see Chao still trying to work that phone out, y'all. Y'all see that? No,
I know, right?
No,
actually, I have to excuse myself because I need to get my charger. I just realized my battery's running low, but it's going to be in the process of the conversation. So if y'all see me stand up in this part of this episode, this is Nairobi, Kenya. This is home. This is how we roll. So just bring some spice to your show.
But while Chao is getting her charger, let's get back to David here. David, you brought us some interesting things, brother. Do you think a big part, and let me say this, and I'm also say this with balance too. You talking about a lot of the issues they go to these churches, right? And I got a question. In some of the churches, do they have a picture of Jesus in there?
They do.
Okay.
Most of them.
Okay. Who does the image of Jesus look like? Does it look like you, or does it look like maybe a white actor from TV?
It looks like Brad Pitt.
Okay. All right. Glad you said that, brother. That's a lot of problem right there.
Yep.
That's the first problem. That white Jesus image was created to bring in racism and white supremacy. Because if you study the real Jesus from the Bible, which you can talk about from Revelation, you can look at even what science had recently stated not too long ago, it doesn't look like the image. That's the first problem. Second problem that I see we talk about the men is that they say they feel judged. Okay. If you understand that the scriptures teach that judge not, for in the same manner you judge, you shall be judged also. So how could they feel judged going to a quote unquote church unless it's that white Jesus operated system, right? Which is judge and condemn and treat people any kind of way. So that's a problem. So when you had mentioned about church, I'm not against church. I'm not against the Bible. I'm not. Trust me. I have a theology degree, a bachelor's degree in theology, so I'm not against the Bible. I put my head down when you said that, because that is the biggest problem that I see on the continent of Africa is that. And if you have men in the church house and they're going through problems and they can't even talk to nobody there, and then they feel ashamed and or whatever the case may be, then you brought up being, listen, when I mean by oversensitive, you got guys that whine and cry all the time about their problems. Like, dude, tell me your problem. Let's figure out a solution. Let's work it out as men. But, one thing we have, some guys may cry about women all day. They may cry about this. Some guys, at least here, feel with a lot of low self-esteem, and they don't take care of their business as they should. So they attack you if you tell them that. No different if you talk about maybe a woman situation, how they respond like women a lot of times. But what I'm saying is, I believe, brother, if we work on ourselves, get out of those churches. If you look, this is how I am. If you invite me to a church, David, and I see that image of white Jesus in there, I'm walking right out. I'm letting you know. You'll say, why are you leaving? I said, I refuse to be in here with that idol, because that's an idol. Jesus is the real. Jesus look like you, brother. So I'm not about to sit up there and walk in the church and see that. Ain't happening.
Can I answer about the white Jesus too?
Oh,
'Cause
go
I heard
ahead,
that.
child. Since you got your cell phone
left
charger.
out. I felt left out. Now that I got my charger back in, let's see this technical issues. Yeah. So, I heard what David said, which is true, and that's where what you're saying. That's where the judgment is. You have to understand that there is a history of colonialism, and what colonialism did is made us believe that the person who brought religion was the right person, and was a person whose color is different from ours. So that's where we got the authority when it comes to religion. But when you read, you realize that Jesus looked just like us, no different. I mean, he had to hide in Egypt when he was a child. He couldn't have hidden if he was that different looking. They would have found him.
Yes, and then those ancient ancient Egyptians, that that's one thing we kind of laugh about. We call them the ancient Egyptians, and they said they're the Egyptians, right? Well, how did Jesus survive in a time with no sunscreen? Even sunscreen is still giving them 3rd-degree burns. So, and the thing is, if that means if they try to say Mary is Caucasian, Joseph is Caucasian, but then they science say that Jesus was more so black. So how did they adopt Jesus or something? Like, it doesn't make sense. But what I'm saying is, when I talk to many people on the continent and break that down, they be like, some of them just refuse to believe it. But I feel more that we should focus on the youth of Africa, because when people get stuck in their ways, even here in America, like just let them alone. But the young people is what we need to focus this message.
That is so true. That is so true. And I think especially Christianity in Kenya and Africa played a huge role in especially the giving men that mentality or the thinking that they are superior than any other person, and that is one of the main reasons that they cannot even share what they really feel. I can give you a good example. We were having a conversation with Chao a while back, and we were talking about our own culture, like our creation story in Africa. Like for example, from my community, it's called the Kikuyu, yeah? Mm-hmm. And the Kikuyu was this man who was called Gekoyo, and the lady was called Mombi, yeah? And these are like the Adam and Eve of my community, right? And so they had 9 daughters, yeah? And if you think about it, that is, and Kikuyu is one of the very, I don't know if using the word masculine tribe is good enough, but there are people who are very men-oriented, they're very strong and all that. So for Gikuyu and this lady called Mumbi had 9 daughters, and that means they didn't have a problem, or this man didn't have a problem having or acknowledging that I had 9 daughters, and that would be taboo in the current world. And then Christianity came in, and the story of now the fact that now this woman came from a rib inside a man, gave the men some, superpowers or something. We used to think that we are equal with women and all that, but now when Christianity came, it taught us different. It taught us that, I came from this man's body, and I have to act like it, and I have to behave this way, and I'm superior than this person, because without her or without him, I am not me and all that. And it, of course, moved on and whatever, and right now here we are. You find a lot of feminism even in Africa. You find a lot of fights against, like we had equality back then, but it has reached a point where we are also even fighting against each other, men versus men, who's stronger than the other, who is more empowered than the other, and all that. So yeah, it's a cycle that we cannot be able to fathom at the moment, basically.
Chao, let me ask you a question. Now you've been in America, you've seen how horrible the system is on families here in America. based off of what
Yeah.
he's saying, do you believe that you need to keep that American lifestyle out of Kenya or out of Africa based off of what you've seen and based off of what you're hearing from him?
And also based on the fact that I've been in both cultures, I'm familiar with. I'll tell you what, the African culture in family is, the family unit is strong. Family is big, and family is not just the people who you're born, in the same family with. Like, at the beginning of this call, we told you, like, hey, welcome to Nairobi, you're home, you're family now. And in Africa, we mean it. It's a real thing. That's why I could stand up in the middle of this conversation and say, hey, my charger's out, because I'm with family. And I can only do that if I feel comfortable. So the notion of family is very, very real. I think when we look at the, in Africa, in the US, let's just go back a little bit. There's been, the African American experience did not allow the family unit, which the original Africans from Africa had to survive. There was just no place for that to survive because of the whole experience, which is traumatic and horrific in every single sense of the word. So there was no way that family was going to survive in the way that it started off when the ancestors came, or were brought. They did not come when they were forcibly brought to the US. So this is what you're looking at. So when we look at it from our end, we can see the difference. We can see some similarity, but we see the difference, and we can see fragmentation or remnants of what was once there. And I think that's why there's the whole come back home. That's why whenever we meet African Americans, we're like, yo, you're home, you're good now, because this is what home is. Home is, I just met you on Skype. David just met you on Skype. Next time you're in Nairobi, you're with family. It's very simple.
Right. My experience, and I guess it kind of changed a lot. And people say, why you talk about Africa so much now? Because prior to me going to Ethiopia last year, I say, yes, I know about Africa. I know where we come from, X, Y, Z. But I didn't have really a connection to it. Right. And when I got there, actually, when I stepped off the plane, I felt it. Right. I say, oh, wow. I'm actually here. Like then I start feeling it. I tell people it's a more sort of spiritual connection. It's not nothing physical.
Yeah.
And then the physical part happens when you open your mouth. And then people say, oh, you African American? And they'll say, oh, you Black American? Oh, welcome home. Everybody just starts shaking your hand. And like I told them, I don't feel like that here in America. Like I only felt that over there. And the moment I came back and we landed in Los Angeles, I was like, oh, God. I felt stress come back on me again. I felt that because here in America, it's all like, it's that rat race. You got to move like that.
Yeah.
In Africa, everybody's just kind of laid back. And it took me 3 days to get out of that mode over there. I'm like, why they moving so slow? And why they taking their time? And why aren't they on time? Like, you don't realize like how jacked up we are here in the way we move.
Can I just say something, sir? In the Lion King, Hakuna Matata, it's a real thing out here, especially in Kenya. It's real. It's like, it's just no worries. It's going to work out. It's going to be fine. But the way the system in the U.S. is set up, and remember, it's also history of colonialism in the U.S. With negative experiences for different groups, means that you are never allowed to slow down. Everything it has to be done quick. It has to be done. It has to be done now. But for us, I fight with David a lot, and he knows, because I'm always like, yo, we're going really slow, and I have slowed down. So sometimes it's like, yo, child, chill. But we still get it done. But because of, you're laughing, David, but it's true, right? So, but because of having been there and having to work at that pace, I expect things to be done systematically, systems and processes. But being back home, you realize that the systems and processes are slightly different. So you have to adapt. I've been back home 12 years. It's still taking me a very long time, but I'm home. That's the difference. And when we tell you, when you come to Africa, welcome home, we mean it. But we understand that it's going to take you some time to adapt as well.
Right, because every time I would talk to a person from the continent, they would say, you know, as long as you come with the right attitude, and then people would start saying in the comments, why they keep saying that to us, like, come with the right attitude?
Yeah.
Like, what attitude you expect us to have? Like, some people get frustrated when they keep hearing that. And so are you related to basically you got to get out of that American, you know, system and
Yeah.
kind of get to this one?
Yeah.
It's different systems.
It is different. I can admit that. It's definitely different.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So, you know, Chao, you are a radio personality as well, correct?
Yep. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, so what's the name of your radio show?
So, well, first I'm going to start off with the station. It's called Capital FM, and you can find us online. The show I have is called The Lounge, and I basically play, you know, the R&B and neo soul music and educate people about that, and also African R&B, not to be confused with Afrobeat, but African R&B and neo soul as well. And right before that, I had another show which dealt more with life issues, and kind of stopped that one for now. So I'm doing the lounge. Yes.
So on the lounge, you playing Jill Scott and things like that?
That's right.
See,
That's
let
right.
me say something about
That's what I
that. Let me say something about
Yeah.
that. You know, because sometimes we feel in America, because the system beats us down, Black American culture is everywhere. Okay, and like I told them when I went to with these guys last year in Addis Ababa, we went. No, it was actually Mekelle. They invited us to go sit down and eat with them. And you been to Mekelle?
No, I didn't. I was in Ethiopia, but I never made it out to Mekelle.
Okay, well, I love the people out there. They're awesome. Anyway, they invited us to go sit down with them, and they wanted to drink me. I don't drink, but I said, hey, I'm there. And as I'm sitting there, they're playing all kind of American music. I heard them playing Tupac. I said, Tupac? And I'm like, out here? I was freaking out. You know what I'm saying? So we are, you know, like I said, don't look down on our culture no matter what these people do. So and they like Jill Scott out there, or who else? Like Luther Vandross, like all that out there?
I like
India Ree, Lauryn Hill, huge fans. And Lamai is getting a lot of airplay as we speak right now. I know she's from the UK, but she's getting a lot. Who else? Migos are huge, man.
Oh no, not the Migos.
I know you're like goddamn crap.
No, look, I love hip hop. I seen hip hop go from the greatness to where it's at today. But please keep the Migos. Oh, the Migos.
I know. We even have our own version of Migos here. It's called the guys are called Ethic.
I believe it.
Yeah.
And huge. They're the biggest artists right now, and you can tell they've been inspired by Migos, and they're huge. Ethic Entertainment. Look them up. It's crazy the following they have, and and there are four of them, very talented, and they're just on another level. And it's the same thing. We had our pioneers in hip hop, like our Tupacs and Snoops, who are called Kalamashaka.
Yeah.
Yes, and we have moved from Kalamashaka down to a guy called Issa in terms of hip hop. Very good hip hop, your kind of hip hop, I can tell. And there's this guy called Calligraph, who you can't tell the difference between him and I don't know which artist. Like he's on another level. But now, when the Migos wave came on, these kids have just taken over the industry. Even from here, they started a culture that cannot be stopped currently as we speak, and they are extremely huge. You look them up.
Well, let me ask you a question. About some of that. Now you mentioned Migos. Now I got to mention it. You're talking about offsetting them, right? So let me guess. Who's the after version of Cardi B and Nicki Minaj? Because I know they're going to show up. Or have they shown up yet?
For the female acts, like Cardi B and Nicki Minaj, not to that extent of
not yet.
No, because you see, again, I think this goes back to culture. It's so much easier for the male artists to get to the Migos and to evolve. It's faster for them to evolve. But for the younger girls and the ladies, It's still conservative. So yes, there are female rappers, there are female MCs, there are battle MCs, but they're at the MC light stage right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you haven't even
But
got to
there's
the
a lot.
part. You haven't even got to where you, well, for instance, you haven't had an African version of yo-yo yet. Then.
No, there is
No.
yo-yo.
Okay,
No,
there's a
yo-yo
yo-yo.
is
There's a
that,
version of that there.
But then there isn't like Nicki Minaj.
Yeah, Lil Kim and none of that yet.
No.
I say
Lil'
yet.
Kim,
I'm
like,
saying
okay.
yet because of that population is young and it's changing a lot of things I'm noticing on the continent.
Yeah, and you know,
Yeah.
with the internet these days, people are able to do what it is they need to do, basically.
But we have very good versions of Jill Scott, India
Yeah.
Rees, and all those people. Like
Yes.
very like
very.
they can stand on the same stage and do some amazing things together.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
In Kenya specifically, yeah.
That's very interesting to hear. But once again, I'm and you guys are hearing this. Black American culture is definitely connected to the continent of Africa. That's for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
Definitely for sure. So, like I said, when people try to put down, the culture here, please, like for me, I always tell people, when I go to any country in the continent of Africa, I'm going to represent my culture from here. But like,
Yeah.
because some people believe to throw away our culture and say just try to be a Kenyan. I'm not. Listen,
Yeah.
I love you. I can even become a Kenyan citizen. I'm still going to be me and be
Yeah.
who I am. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's because of the experience you've had. And I honestly I think because we're on the outside looking into the African American culture, it's really important to see that, you're your ancestors' wildest dreams. You need to understand that and remember that. And we continued evolving, like Wakanda, for example, out here. But you faced and you faced a lot of prejudice and a lot of hardship. It was a traumatic experience, but you still managed to get out there. Now, it's easy for us to look at African Americans and say, you know what, you remind me of Nigerians, you remind me of Ghanaians, you remind me maybe of Congolese, if you look at them, like West and Central Africans. So for us, that's why, you're home, but the system and where you are is designed to keep you thinking that you're less than enough. And that's just, again, from the horrendous experience. But the truth is, you are more than enough,
Yeah.
Like we see it.
Right. And I told them that I was never felt more respected as a black man until I actually went to Africa. And they saw that blue passport and they said, "Oh, you're African American?" They was like just excited. And I'm like, you don't get that feeling here in America. They want you to feel like a permanent underclass or a fifth class citizen here.
Yeah, and there's also that aspect a bit here. If you look at it from an educational point of view, because like most of our education is from the US and the UK and all that. Those are the systems that we use, British system mostly. And I remember even in all our public schools, if you go to school and happen to speak your local language or your traditional language, you'd be punished,
Oh, wow.
And that, because they expect you to speak English, and it was actually forceful to some extent, because it was a real punishment, like a whooping. It wasn't like, go at the corner there and stay there for like 7 minutes. No. It was a serious whooping, and we were being shunned for speaking our local language. And I'm sure it exists until now. And I think that way, even in Africa, I feel like we are killing our culture. We are killing our languages. We are killing what we represent and all, because it's totally unfair for punishing a kid. This is a 6-7-year-old kid when they speak their language in school. That's punishable. And I feel like in Africa, we experience that in a different way, and it's quite unfortunate, and probably that needs to change. We need like a whole campaign to just fight that and take ourselves as we are, and don't kill that. The system is still colonized,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And we need to move from that and, go to the next level and just be ourselves, speak our language proudly. We should have We should even push for Facebook and all these other platforms that in Africa to translate into whatever language, our native languages, so that we can be communicating in our own language and be proud of that at the same time, basically.
Well, what you're saying is that's why I like Julius Malema, because he said that we need to get rid of, like, whether people like him or not. I could feel Julius Malema when he talked about certain things, especially about these folks. Anyway,
yes.
He was saying that Swahili should be the continental language, and we should have no borders. And I'm like, you know what?
Yep.
He's right, because then folks came in and say, no, you're going to speak French. I think it's atrocious that black folks have to speak French in West Africa. Like, what is that?
Or English, for that matter.
And it also English.
It was brought in. It's funny that you say that. I want to add on to what you just said. When our empires, it goes back to history movement. I'm just agreeing with you because I feel like they're not teaching us our history as well as they should. And if we were to get the actual history, then we would be more confident or more proud about our culture and would not allow for the erasure to happen. Because, punishing kids for speaking their local language, that's an erasure. That's an erasure of the culture, which is wrong, which is, it's systemic, because these kids in 2-3 generations will probably not speak their local mother tongue, and their grandparents, which might be us, will not be there. So they will not have the ability to remember what that sounded like. And this can only be redone. There is a Renaissance, there's always African Renaissance, there's always this, but it can only be done once we know our history. Once we know, like Muba was talking about, Kikuyu, he's mixed. I just put you on blast, Muba. He's got like different tribes in him, or ethnicities in him. So imagine if he knows about each of the ethnicities that run through his veins. His grandkids and great-grandkids knowing that, because there'll be more mixture and admixture, that's saying, hey, I have all this in me, but I know the history of this and this and this and this. To go back to what you were saying, when traditionally empires were horizontal is one that goes like this, right? Mm-hmm. Where's that vertical? And left to right, let's just say that's how the empires were. But during colonization, they came and cut them top to front. So you cut groups of people and you put us in a box. So when somebody comes and says, let's eradicate this, or like you were saying, you go to school and you don't know the native language, or you're being punished, there's already so much being taken. And this is from us who are still on the continent. Translate that to people who are forcibly removed.
Right.
So there's even more erasure.
Right.
See?
And I want to just touch something real quick. You said the key word you said earlier was they aren't teaching our culture. The key word is they. They're not going to. It doesn't benefit them. Like the less we are the perfect case to talk about as African Americans. They took us to here. They took away our African spirituality, our African languages, everything, and then the slave master gave you his white Jesus, gave you his language, gave you everything, and now you have a group of people who don't have to really find themselves. Like I said, we know we're not assimilated to this country, we won't ever be, because we are our own people. We don't really have a country we could say in Africa, hey, that's my country, that's this, that's that. So we are literally like nomads in another land, basically, right? Some black folks here wants to say, I'm an American, but at the end of the day, if you read the Klan manual, that doesn't include you. Because I was just reading the KKK manual last night, because I study racism and white supremacy all the time. That doesn't include you as black men and black women, no matter where we come from, right? So don't let them do the things they did to us, basically. And that's what I would warn, like, fight like hell to have your historians to preserve and teach and stop letting them do anything with you. Stop letting them teach you about religion. Stop letting them teach you about history. Don't let them come in and tell you how to raise your kids, because look at their kids. Like, do you really want your kids to do that? I mean, seriously, we globally need to take our own cultures and history and countries back, because these people don't, like, I don't care who they come from, the Chinese, whatever. They're not meaning you no good.
Yeah, that's true. But our our governments are already extremely colonized as we speak. We keep borrowing money from these places, and we are treated like puppets. The agenda is normally pushed as we speak. So I'd also like to blame ourselves as Africans for being so easily swayed, and of course the governments and our leaders in general. We have the people who fought for our independence currently are still alive. Yeah. These guys are dying with so much knowledge and so much insight and so much pain as we speak currently. And they have a lot of stories that they can give us to tell us the way, to help us know where we are from so that we can create a better future. But these stories are not being told by anyone, and this is the history that you guys wish you had,
Yeah.
Imagine knowing the person who was brought in as a slave to America, and getting them to tell you their experience and their pain and to share, their future dreams and all that would help you to propel to the next level, That is the opportunity we have currently. But with the leadership and the corruption that we have, we are trying to kill that, Recently, those veterans, those freedom fighters that we have here were paid not a lot of money by the British government, and it was all celebration, and the government was really happy about that and all that. But that's not enough. We need to do more and tell these stories, and so that my great grandkids can actually get to know where we are from and what we've been doing all along from the beginning to be where we are, and what their dreams were, including and combining that with the dreams that they have currently, and just move to the next level. Otherwise, very soon our great grandchildren will be having a story like the Black Americans and all the African Americans that we have right now.
All right, so Chao and David, could you tell people how to possibly get to what you guys are working on? Maybe they can check you guys out, whether it's your mental health or even your radio show, and
Sure.
let people know how to get in touch with you guys.
All right, so for the website, you could just go to www.bonga, that's bonga.or.ke. And it's basically like e-counseling. I think I'm saying that right, Muba? It's basically like a form of therapy. It's completely anonymous. We have therapists on the back end who attend to you as soon as you get in there and share your problem.
All right, how people can get to your radio show?
Muba, give the website. Capital.
Our radio is you can get our radio and all our shows at www.capitalfm.co.ke/listen live.
Okay, listen live. All right. So what time does the radio show come on?
So my radio show, if you're trying to listen to it, it comes on Sunday mornings, which is typically anytime between, depending on what coast you're on. So it could be 10 p.m. Pacific time, and I think that's 1 a.m. Eastern time. It runs for 2 hours.
Okay. All right.
So that's late. But if you're working the shift, because in the States people are working shifts, so you can still listen to it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, make sure we'll put these links in the pinned comment. You want to check out Chao's radio show and actually hear them playing Jill Scott in Nairobi, and that would be you'll smile at that one. But we want to thank you guys for coming on the show today, and lady, thank you for coming on the show today, and we greatly appreciate it. And it'd be good to see you guys in October.
Yes, sir.
You're
Thank
welcome.
You so much.
And my last comment is that our Jill Scott is called Karun.
Oh, okay, you got to send me a link to her music on YouTube and let me hear what she got going on.
Oh, perfect. No worries.
All right.